call the meeting of the District of Columbia Board of Ethics and Government Accountability to order. I'm Bega Chairperson Norma Hutcheson, and this meeting is being held at the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability, 1030 15th Street Northwest, Suite 700 West, and virtually. Joining me today for this meeting are board members Charles Nottingham, Felice Smith, Darrin Sobin, and Melissa Tucker. Together, the five of us constitute a quorum for this meeting. Since it was first posted, there's been one change to the agenda. Please take a read. That's the consideration of the 2025 meeting schedule. So I ask that you take a minute to review the agenda, and then we need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll offer the motion that we adopt the agenda for today's meeting.
Is there a second?
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda for today's meeting. If anyone has any comments or questions, if no one has any comments or suggestions, all in favor, please, of adopting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the board has adopted the agenda for today's meeting. Before us today are the November 2024 draft meeting minutes, and will you take a minute to look at those, and then we need a motion to consider approval of the meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the board consider the approval of the November 2024 meeting minutes. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays. Hearing none, the board approves the November 2024 meeting minutes. Next on the agenda is the 2025 schedule of meetings. Please take a moment to review the proposed schedule.
Before offering the motion to approve the schedule, just for the public's benefit, the one change I see here obviously is we're returning to our traditional 10 a.m. meeting time for those who are following this, and don't want you to be 2 hours late. We're moving from noon to 10 if I'm following this closely, beginning on January 9th. But with that, I'd offer the motion to approve the 2025 schedule of meetings.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the schedule of meetings for 2025. If there are no comments or suggestions, would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? Hearing none, the board has approved the 2025 schedule of meetings. Next, we'll hear a report from the Office of Open Government. Chief Counsel Charles Neal will, Lewis Neal. Charles. Lewis Neal will give us the report.
Excuse me, Chair. Actually, Director Allen will be delivering.
Okay, I'm sorry.
She'll be doing it virtually.
I didn't see her. Director Allen. Can you hear us?
Thank you. Yes, can you hear me?
Go right ahead.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I am Niquelle Allen, Director of Open Government. I am pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Open Government, or OOG. Our mission is to ensure that all persons receive full and complete information concerning the affairs of the District of Columbia government and the actions of its officials. Since the last board meeting, OOG has continued its work to ensure that the District of Columbia government's operations are transparent, open to the public, and promote civic engagement. To that end, OOG has enforced the Open Meetings Act, advised on the Freedom of Information Act requirements, and provided training on those transparency laws. OOG proudly served as advocates for an open and transparent government. I will begin my report with Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act advice rendered by the office. Advisory opinions. I have not issued an advisory opinion since the board's last meeting. Informal advice. Since the last board meeting, OOG has responded informally via email, telephone, or teleconference to requests for assistance as follows: 1 request for OMA advice, 3 requests for FOIA advice, and 9 requests for technical assistance with open-dc.gov. Next in my report is OOG's meeting monitoring. OOG staff attends public bodies meetings in person and remotely to ensure compliance with the Open Meetings Act. They also inspect public bodies websites and OOG's central meeting calendar for public meeting notices and records. OOG's attorneys provide legal advice on the Open Meetings Act compliance and take corrective action if necessary. Since the last board meeting, OOG's legal staff attended 9 public body meetings. As a result of the monitoring, 1 corrective measure was communicated. The public body failed to post a detailed agenda. Regarding training and outreach, I only have 1 matter to report: the Office of the Attorney General's rulemaking training. On December 4th, I, along with attorney advisors Anthony J. Skirbo, Brandon Lewis, and Joan Lelma, attended the Office of the Attorney General's rulemaking training. The Legal Counsel Division of the Office of the Attorney General's attorneys Lori Ensworth and Josh Turner discussed the procedural and substantive requirements for rulemaking under district laws, the Legal Counsel Division's role in the rulemaking review process, and issues that they frequently encounter in the course of their reviews. The OAG facilitators covered the main steps of proposed, approved, and final rule with an explanation of how emergency rules are made. They also highlighted potential legal issues and the do's and don'ts of writing rules. Next is the litigation and legislative update. Regarding litigation, there are 2 FOIA cases. First is the D.C. Open Government Coalition versus the District of Columbia, case number 2023-CAB-07251 in D.C. Superior Court. This case involves the D.C. Open Government Coalition's lawsuit against D.C. seeking an accounting of the backlog of public record requests submitted through the FOIA Express public access link. The Office of the Chief Technology Officer is the agency involved in this matter. An update of the status of the lawsuit is as follows. The status hearing that was scheduled for November 22nd was continued to December 19th and then rescheduled for February 14th, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. The court determined upon reviewing the docket that it required additional time to review plaintiff's opposed motion for leave to file First Amendment complaint and supplemental brief filed on October 2nd, and the subsequent opposition and reply. OOG staff will continue to monitor this case. The second case is Pauline Stonehill versus the Internal Revenue Service, civil action number 06-0599, DC District Court 2024. This federal FOIA case is an attempt to overturn a longstanding ruling regarding a dispute concerning a federal FOIA production of documents. The facts of this matter commenced in 1962. Local authorities raided Henry S. Stonehill's businesses in the Philippines, leading the IRS to bring a civil tax case against him and his associate. The IRS obtained a $17.6 million judgment against them 2 decades later. In 1998 and 2001, Mr. Stonehill filed identical FOIA requests with the IRS seeking documents related to the matter. Pauline Stonehill, Henry Stonehill's wife and co-executive of his estate, became the plaintiff in this litigation when her husband died in 2002. Mrs. Stonehill died in 2023. The co-executive of the estate, Dr. Patrick Lentz, was substituted as plaintiff in 2024. In the IRS's response to the 1998 and 2001 FOIA requests, the IRS identified only 8 boxes of responsive documents. However, upon review of the boxes, the IRS found in SF-135, a form used by the National Archives and Records Administration to record its transmission and receipt of agency records. The SF-135 stated that the IRS sent 86 boxes of records related to the IRS's civil tax case against the plaintiff to the Washington National Records Center, or WNRC. When the IRS went to the WNRC to review these boxes, they found only 84 boxes. The WNRC did not have boxes 17 or 83, nor any record of their location, so the IRS and NARA determined the boxes were missing. In 2008, the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia granted partial summary judgment to both the plaintiff and the IRS on some document withholding claims and to the IRS on the sufficiency of its FOIA search. The plaintiff alleged that the IRS improperly withheld documents in response to the 98 and 2001 FOIA requests. Dr. Lentz moved to set the judgment aside under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 60B6 and the district court's inherent powers in 2024. The plaintiff argued that the IRS committed fraud on the court by deeming boxes 17 and 83 missing because it knew the boxes were never lost and was keeping the boxes hidden in a safe to avoid production. On November 5th, the court ruled that a court may only set aside a judgment under Rule 60B6 for a reason not addressed in any other part of Rule 60B6. This rule does not provide litigants with a way to circumvent time limits established in that rule. Providing false declarations to a court that boxes containing documents sought in a Freedom of Information Act suit were lost does not constitute fraud on the court. The motion to set aside judgment was denied. A copy of the court's decision has been placed in Dropbox, and OOG staff will continue to monitor this case. The update on legislation is next. There's one bill regarding FOIA, the D.C. Water Critical Infrastructure Freedom of Information Clarification Amendment Act of 2024. As previously reported, the bill has been transmitted to Congress with a projected law date of December 21st, 2024. In addition, the temporary bill in effect, any DC FOIA advice issued is covered by the temporary legislation and will be permanent once the permanent act becomes law. This bill exempts from disclosure critical infrastructure information or plans that contain critical infrastructure information for the critical infrastructures of the District of Columbia Water and Sewer Authority. I will conclude my report with administrative matters. The one administrative matter is the FY26 budget formulation meeting. On November 20th, Director Cooks, Chief of Staff Mitchell, General Counsel Raj, and Chief Counsel Neal conducted a virtual meeting with members of the Office of the City Administrator regarding Bega's FY26 budget and delivered its budget request presentation. The proposed budget was not sufficient to cover OOG's operating expenses, so Bega requested several budget enhancement requests to the Office of the City Administrator to consider. Bega's budget enhancement requests regarding OOGs are as follows. 1, to restore the agency's non-personnel services funding to the FY24 level, and 2, to fund OOG's trial attorney position, whose primary responsibility is to seek relief in Superior Court for OMA violations and to argue for temporary restraining orders and injunctive relief as the OMA requires. This concludes the Office of Open Government's December 5th, 2024 report. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Director Allen. Are there any questions for Director Allen? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is a report from the Director of Government Ethics. Director Cooks, please proceed.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I'm Ashley Cooks, the Director of Government Ethics. I'm pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Government Ethics, OGE. First is an update on the status of OGE operations. The information reported today regarding OGE's cases will not reflect any status changes that may occur because of actions taken by the board during today's meeting. First, open investigations by status. We have 52 matters that are open, 1 matter that is open for a show cause hearing for a grand total of 53 matters. We have 0 undocketed matters. For pending state investigations by status, we have 36 matters that are closed pending collection, 1 matter stayed pending D.C. Superior Court case, 4 matters stayed for OIG investigation, and 3 matters stayed for U.S. District Court case for a grand total of 44 matters. For regulatory matters by status, we have 36 matters that are closed pending collection, 78 matters that are open for a grand total of 114 matters. Again, we currently have 53 open investigations and 8 matters that are stayed. The number of open preliminary and formal investigations includes 9 new matters. The investigative team resolved 17 investigations since the board last met. This total does not reflect the number of complaints that were dismissed for a lack of jurisdiction. Next is an update on trainings and outreach. First, professional development trainings attended by staff. Program support assistant Niquelle Titus took the course Understanding the DC Budget. Program coordinator Stan Kosick took Introduction to MicroStrategy. Attorney advisor Brenda Keels completed level 1 investigative interviewing techniques offered by Whitlander and Zielinski and Associates. Most of OGE's legal staff attended the Office of the Attorney General's rulemaking training session. 77% of the agency's employees have completed the annual mandatory cybersecurity training course as of this week. All board members, employees, and contractors must take the training by Tuesday, December 31st, 2024. For trainings conducted by staff, since the last board meeting, OGE conducted 3 training sessions. That includes 2 new employee orientations and the monthly brown bag session. On Monday, November 25th, Attorney Advisor Brenda Keels presented the November Ethics Council Brown Bag session. She presented the seasonally appropriate topic of gifts to approximately 20 ethics counselors. A copy of the presentation was placed in the Dropbox for your review. During the month of November, 27 employees completed ethics training using PeopleSoft, and 5 employees were added to the learning management system. Next is an update on outreach. Next week, several OGE attorneys and Supervisory Investigator Cook will attend the annual conference for the Council on Governmental Ethics Laws, COGL, in Los Angeles, California. On Sunday, December 8th, Senior Attorney Advisor Tran is speaking on a panel titled Federal Insights, How Did We Get Here? The Good, Bad, and Ugly. Also on Sunday, General Counsel Raj is presenting with Alex Skip from the New York Conflicts of Interest Board in a session titled Present with Presence, Improv Skills to Boost Collaboration and Connection in Your Presentations. Finally, also on Sunday, December 8th, I will be speaking on a panel called Turning Crisis into Opportunities, Strategies for Building and Restoring Public Trust in Government. We're looking forward to COGL and will give a full summary of the conference at the next board meeting. Next is an update on advisory opinions and advice. First is an update on informal advice. OGE's legal staff provided advice for approximately 28 ethics inquiries, which is 15 less than the 43 reported at the last board meeting. This number does not include responses we've provided to questions regarding the lobbyist and FDSE filing systems. For formal advisory opinions, OGE has not issued any advisory opinions this month. OGE has 2 advisory opinions in the works with the hopes that they can be published before the end of the year. These are the widely attended gatherings, advisory opinion, and an advisory opinion on lobbying. OGE is also in the process of editing the advisory opinion for advisory neighborhood commissioner sign-on letters. Next is an update on annual best practices report pursuant to DC Official Code Section 1-1162.02B. Bega is in the final stages of drafting its annual best practices report, which will be transmitted to the mayor and each member of the council by December 31st. This report will highlight the functional achievements of both OOG and OGE from fiscal year 2024 until December of this fiscal year. It would also include recommendations for actions that will strengthen the district's ethics laws and transparency laws, thereby strengthening the district's public integrity. Next is an update on legislation and rulemaking. There's only one matter there, that's the financial disclosure rulemaking. On December 1st, Bega's most recent financial disclosure rulemaking was published in the DC Register for a 30-day comment period. This financial disclosure rulemaking addresses technical and minor substantive changes to the financial disclosure regulations. This rulemaking will provide clarity for regulations that are ambiguous and corrects language that aligns with the Ethics Act and Chapter 18 of the District Personnel Regulations. The comment period ended on Monday, December 2nd, 2024, and no comments were received. Next is an update on OGE administrative matters. First, vacancies. OGE has posted its attorney advisor and human resources specialist vacancies. The office is in the process of posting the vacancy announcement for its legal fellow position and will soon post an announcement for its upcoming administrative officer vacancy. FY26 budget. On November 20th, OGE and OOG presented the agency's FY26 budget submission to the Office of the City Administrator. Bega received its mark, which does not include any reductions. However, the agency will face shortfalls in its FY26 budget due to increases in fringe benefits and step increases in salaries, as well as expenses such as IT assessment fees. We have requested a budget enhancement for funding to the non-personnel services fund. OGE requested funding to hire 2 full-time auditors who will enable the agency to meet its statutory requirement of auditing all financial disclosure statements on an annual basis. We look forward to receiving the mayor's decision on our request. Also, OGE plans to submit a Budget Support Act proposal, which will amend the lobbyist section of the Ethics Act by repealing Section 1-1162.28A4, which excludes 501c4 organizations from registering as lobbying entities, and adding language that requires those entities to register in the same manner as the 501c3 organizations. Currently, 501c3 nonprofit organizations must register with the Director of Government Ethics and pay a reduced registration fee of $100. The legislative history of the Ethics Act does not provide reasoning for excluding 501c4 entities from the registration requirement. In fact, most jurisdictions, including the federal lobbying disclosure program, do not differentiate between nonprofit organizations and other organizations that meet the lobbying registration requirements. While public policy and the nature of 501c3 and 501c4 entities can justify a fee reduction for those nonprofit organizations, OGE has not identified any practical or public policy purposes for completely exempting 501c4 entities from the registration and reporting requirements. OGE will submit the Budget Support Act proposal to the mayor by the end of the month and to the council in the spring. Next is an update on financial disclosure statement, FDS. Pursuant to DC Official Code Sections 1-1162.24 and 1-1162.25, public officials and certain government employees must file a financial disclosure statement as a means of transparency and to prevent engaging in conduct that violates the Financial Conflicts of Interest statute. Bega is responsible for ensuring that employees and public officials who meet the statutory requirement file their annual financial disclosure statement. The FDS team is in the final stages of enforcement measures for those filers who did not submit their statements in a timely manner. The Office of Pay and Retirement Services has garnished a $300 fine from delinquent filers, and fine notices were sent to former employees. The council members' fall financial disclosure statements were due on November 15, 2024. As a result of several notices sent via email and mail, the majority of council members have filed their fall 2024 financial disclosure statements. Next is an update on lobbying registration and reporting, LRR. Pursuant to DC Official Code Section 1-1162.27A, a person who receives compensation or expends funds in an amount of $250 or more in any 3 consecutive calendar month period for lobbying shall register with the Director of Government Ethics and pay the required registration fee. According to DC Official Code Section 1-1162.30, each registrant shall file a quarterly report concerning the registrant's lobbying activity during the previous quarter. On September 13th, the LRR team sent 895 registrants and clients notice that the 2024 Q3 activity reports were due on October 15th. The notice included the new fee and late penalty fee structures. To date, there are 10 registrants who have not filed their Q3 activity reports. Lastly, the LRR team will host a lobbying registration and reporting training on January 8th, 2025. The training will cover the lobbying rules and laws and how to navigate the e-filing system. Notice will be sent to all registered lobbyists, and the event is posted on our website. Last is an update on public investigations. There's only one matter there. That is 24-0010F, Henry Marcellus Willis. This is a formal investigation based on the complaint that the respondent, former employee of the University of the District of Columbia, used a government purchase card to make unauthorized purchases. Respondent worked at UDC for 5 years and was responsible for handling procurement for the university. The board approved the notice of violation, which contained assertions that respondent violated DPM Section 1800.3G by using public office of private gain, and DPM Section 1808.1 by failing to protect and conserve government property. A public hearing is scheduled for March 6th and 7th, 2025. Thank you. This concludes my report for the December 5th, 2024 meeting.
Thank you, Director Cooks. Are there any questions for Director Cooks?
Madam Chair, just a couple quick questions. On the Marcellus Willis matter, are you able, and don't respond if you should not, but are we talking about large amounts of alleged purchasing, or is there a range? Like, are there allegations? I mean, is it a smaller, or is that something that just shouldn't be? We don't know yet.
So I can answer the question since it's a public investigation. The records that we have shows that he purchased up to $17,000 worth of personal items on the government purchase card. And that is about, I believe the NOV has about 17 counts on it. And of course, you know, the board has the authority to issue a fine of up to $5,000 per violation. So it's around $17,000 that he misused of government money.
Thank you. And just quickly, there was reference to the ANC sign-on letters area, neighborhood commissioners. Remind me, what's that all about? ANC sign-on letters?
Yes, we received a request from the office of the ANC concerning ANC commissioners signing on and issuing sign-on letters in their official capacity regarding matters that didn't actually involve district government business. So we issued an advisory opinion on that, stating that, of course, the conflict of interest rule is implicated when ANC commissioners use their official title and position, as well as using public office or private gain, and basically concluded that ANC commissioners should only use their title and position for matters that are before the ANC commissioner. Otherwise, they should sign on to letters that don't deal with district government business in their personal capacity.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, then next on our agenda are public comments. Members of the public who are in attendance at this meeting have an opportunity to make a comment at this time. Are there any? Okay, if there are no comments from the public, we will proceed to the next item on the agenda, and that's our executive session or the closed session. This is a closed session to discuss ongoing confidential investigations pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B14, to consult with an attorney to obtain legal advice and to preserve the attorney-client privilege between an attorney and a public body pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B4A, to discuss personnel matters, including the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, performance evaluation, compensation, discipline, demotion, removal, or resignation of government employees, appointees, employees, or officials pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B10, to deliberate on a decision in which the Ethics Board will exercise quasi-judicial functions pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B13, and to discuss contract negotiation strategies pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B2. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the board enter into executive session. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No. Then the motion passes unanimously. Board members, please move over to the boardroom for the executive session. We will return to this meeting after the conclusion of the executive session to report out any matters decided, finish any other business, and adjourn the meeting. Thank you. All right, we're back on the record. The time is now 1:11 p.m. And it's a executive session. The board approved a negotiated disposition in case number 24-0073-P in Ray A. Barnes Johnson. And now it's 1:12. And this concludes the meeting of the DC Board of Government Ethics and Government Accountability. The next meeting will be held here at 1030 15th Street, Suite 700 West, and virtually on January 9th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Thank you, and everyone have a great holiday.
Thank you.